People used to treat me like I was nothing, just another mechanic in a room full of men who thought my skin color and gender disqualified me from their world. I still remember the day. Fernando, my manager, stormed into the workshop, his face twisted in fury, and fired me because I dared to help a desperate biker, Daniel, whose daughter was clinging to life in a hospital across town. In that moment, I crossed an invisible line, inciting his prejudice, exposing the painful absurdity of a world where helping others could cost you your job. Reflecting on the turmoil that followed, I couldn't help but feel disbelief mixed with a newfound confidence. I had spent years fighting against the tide in a male-dominated space, breaking stereotypes and mastering a craft that few believed I could handle. Now, I was out of work, but that didn't mean I would back down. The struggle turned into determination. I gathered evidence of every discriminatory action I'd witnessed to build my case. I wasn't the first to face injustice, but I refused to let it define my future. Then came the turning point. Daniel revealed his true identity. He was the son of James Morrison, a powerful business mogul, unaware of the hostility brewing in his son's world. With his help, I would confront Fernando and expose the toxicity festering in the workshop. The plan was clear. Not only would I reclaim my place, but I would reshape the very culture of that shop, turning it into a beacon of equity and inclusion. I was no longer just a mechanic. I was ready to lead the charge for change. "Camila, you're out of line." Fernando's voice cut through the workshop like a jagged blade, turning every head towards the tension. "You think you can just ignore protocol because some tattooed loser needs his bike fixed? This is a professional shop, not a charity." He punctuated his words with a dismissive wave, as if brushing away a fly. Camila clenched her jaw, her heart pounding against her chest. "His daughter is in the hospital, Fernando. He needed help." "And you think I care about some biker's sob story?" he snapped, his sneer amplifying the chaotic energy around them. "You're here to follow orders, not play hero. Pack your things. You're fired." She felt the room close in on her, a mix of disbelief and anger swirling in her gut. "You know I'm the best mechanic here. This isn't just about me." "Smee. Say FK," he interrupted, eyes narrowing. "This isn't about you, it's about your replacement. You can walk, or I can call in the big guns and force you to get the fuck out." Her face flushed with fury, but she knew she had to play this carefully, not to cause a bigger problem than the bike she was working on. "I have a daughter in the hospital, Fernando," she said, her voice steady, yet tinged with panic. "She's been through enough. I'm not about to leave her like this. You're not taking me off this project." "Camila, you need to listen," he began, but she held up a hand to silence him. "And if you think you're going to replace me like that," she took a step toward the door, her voice barely a whisper. "I quit." The room fell into silence as the reality of what she had just done settled in. Fernando, normally calm, took a deep breath. "That's it then?" he finally asked, his tone uncharacteristically low. "You're done." Camila didn't look at him, but the words burned odd. "You were already a liability, just another woman thinking she can push boundaries." His words dripped with disdain, reinforcing the hierarchy of their world, a world that placed her at the bottom. Camila's hands trembled as she fought back tears. As she walked to her toolbox, the sounds of judgment from her coworkers echoed in her mind. "I can't believe you did that," one muttered, shaking his head. "Just don't let it get to you," another added, their voice laced with pity. But the humiliation stung more than any comment. As she packed her tools, she choked back the urge to shout that this wasn't just about a job, it was about respect, about fighting against a system that thrived on her subjugation. She turned to face Fernando, her voice steady despite the storm inside her. "You'll regret this," she said, clutching her toolbox. "You think you can silence me? Not for long." The power imbalance simmered, and as she left, she vowed to reclaim her narrative. The air was thick with tension as Camila stood in front of her workstation, the clattering of tools dimming under the weight of her thoughts. Fernando's cruel words echoed in her mind. Insubordination, unfit for this line of work, as if they were shackles binding her to a life of muted frustration. She stared down the rows of motorcycles, each one a testament to her skill, her passion, and the countless hours she'd poured into proving her worth among the men who passed judgment with narrowed eyes and whispered barbs. Tay-Day had started like any other, a busy morning filled with noise and grease. But it shifted when Daniel, a distressed biker with tear-streaked cheeks, stumbled in, clutching his phone like a lifeline. His daughter was in the hospital, a situation so dire that the looming risk of losing her had him desperate for help. Camilla had seen that desperation, felt the weight of it, and offered her expertise without a second thought. Yet it was that very compassion that had cost her everything. Fernando had fired her within minutes, his anger a twisted reflection of his biases. As the door slammed behind her, Camilla swallowed hard, every rejection washing over her, but she refused to let the tears spill. Instead, a quiet fury began to swell inside. She looked left at her station and then right at the eyes that had shunned her, and with each passing moment, she felt the simmering heat of resolve build within her, a force she had kept hidden for far too long. To simmer turned to a storm as Camilla mulled over the unfairness, the indignity, and the insidious bias she'd witnessed day after day. She recalled her mother's words about justice and courage, feeling a spark light within. She wasn't just another mechanic, she was a force to be reckoned with, ready to take a stand, ready to transform everything. Her heart raced, not with fear, but with the undeniable thrill of change on the horizon. She had endured enough. Now it was time to fight back. Camilla stood in the workshop, the sounds of clinking tools and revving engines swirling around her like a familiar symphony. After weeks of feeling marginalized and discouraged, clarity began to wash over her. She straightened her back, recalling the skills she had honed against all odds. "I won't let him define my worth anymore," she whispered to herself, the determination in her voice unmistakable. The day she confronted Fernando was the day everything shifted. She had gathered her courage, scrutinizing her notes on the systemic discrimination around the shop. "You think I'm just going to roll over after you fired me for helping someone in need?" she said, her eyes steady but resolute. Fernando scoffed, his arrogance palpable. "You're just a mechanic, Camilla. Don't think you can change anything here." But that was where he was wrong. With each piece of evidence she'd collected, her confidence solidified. "I may be just a mechanic, but I'm also a skilled one. And I won't stay quiet while you perpetuate this bias," she replied with a quiet strength, a small victory washing over her. Meanwhile, Daniel found his voice too. "My dad needs to know about this. You can't get away with treating people like that. Camilla deserves better." He nodded firmly, standing by her side. With the support of her newfound ally, Camilla secured a meeting with James Morrison. As she presented her case, she felt a surge of energy, a confident, almost electric promise of a comeback. "This shop can be better. I can lead it towards a more inclusive future," she declared, challenging their past norms. The air crackled with anticipation. Small victories were leading to a larger transformation. Camilla had taken a stand and was ready for the change she envisioned, the future unfolding before her, filled with hope and opportunity. Camilla stood in the workshop, a storm of emotions swirling within her as she faced Fernando. The man who had fired her with his arrogant smirk was now squirming in the presence of James Morrison, the iconic motorcycle mogul. Remembering her own journey, Camilla felt a quiet strength surge through her. "Mr. Morrison," she began, her voice steady, "you might want to hear about the real reason I was let go." She glanced at the evidence she gathered, thick enough to silence even the loudest doubts. Fernando's confident expression faltered as Camilla detailed the years of relentless discrimination she faced. How she risked her job to assist an injured man for the sake of his daughter, only to be met with scorn. Morrison listened intently, his brow furrowed as he absorbed the gravity of Fernando's actions. "You think this is a joke?" he questioned Fernando, his voice low but laced with authority. Camilla felt the weight of the moment settle in. This was justice, not revenge. An urge to cheer surged within her, but she remained composed, savoring each word as Fernando's bravado crumbled. "I?" Fernando stammered, his earlier bravado evaporating under Morrison's piercing gaze. "It was protocol. It's discriminatory," Morrison countered, eyes locked on Fernando. "You've put this establishment at risk, and I won't have it." The power shifted palpably in the air, and Camilla watched as Fernando's color drained, humiliation etched deep in his features. Taya, while Fernando's world unraveled, Camila's was reborn. "I want to bring change," she declared, her voice commanding, "to build an inclusive community here." It was a moment earned, a victory that echoed through the workshop as her colleagues looked on, no longer bystanders but allies. In that silent triumph, Camilla felt vindication wash over her, a shared sense of relief pervading the space. The turning of the tide was palpable. They had all witnessed it. As the dust settled, Camilla stood at the heart of the workshop, no longer sidelined, but a beacon of justice in a reformed workplace. As I sit back, reflecting on everything that unfolded, I realize how far I've come. 6 months ago, I was just a mechanic dodging the harsh judgments of a narrow-minded boss, feeling invisible among the revving engines and greasy tools. But today, I stand proud in a workshop that values everyone, no matter their background. My journey wasn't easy. I faced systemic bias, unwarranted accusations, and the constant pressure to fit into a mold that was never meant for me. But through it all, the desire to help others, like Daniel in his moment of desperation, fueled my spirit. I think of how much justice matters not just for me, but for everyone who feels overlooked. In the end, standing up for what's right transformed not only my life, but the lives of those around me. So here's my question for you. Do you think I went too far in standing up for myself and others? Have you ever had someone treat you unjustly? I'd love to hear your stories and thoughts. Share your experiences in the comments, and let's discuss the complexities of right and wrong in our lives.